Amazon native relations with these Australians, New Guineans, and Andaman Islanders are probably older and possibly before human hybridization started or became significant or dominant. It became dominant with what David Reich calls the Yamnaya population turnover event. And here we are talking about the time that hybridization was still rather seldom. However, so they are early descendants of the Amazon natives, but however, they could be a result of hybridization, because I will claim that hybridization happened on demand or order. And amongst others, you can see this because the hybrids present morphological characteristics. Back to the case of the Australians, hybrids, in my opinion. If this hybridization was never repeated or never identical, then all what is said until now is explainable. Also, that the Amazon counterpart of this Australian hybrid is not longer, does not exist anymore in the Americas. It's only genetically traceable, as done in this study. So they're not in the Americas anymore. About hybridization, that's the rule of hybridization. One should not pool older hybrids where the hybridization takes place to guarantee good and pure hybrids. And after all, the produced, so to speak, hybrids had a destination, so they were in the destination. And their destinations are exactly Australia, New Guinea, and Andaman Islands. Andaman Islands, because especially from the Andaman Islands, this was an important trade point to deliver them to Myanmar and further to India, etc. This is explained in other videos and ebooks. So anyhow, in a place of hybridization, for instance, North America was a place of hybridization. The older hybrids don't stay there. You will seldomly find them. You will find them in their destinations, whether this is as fossil or not. So these Australians, New Guineans, and Andaman Islanders migrated or were delivered through certain older Pacific routes. Final observations. The key routes that are involved in this connection have similarities with the R Romeo route. For the much later R Romeo, especially R1b Romeo 1 Bravo, the Pacific route, as well as Eastern Eurasia and Africa, were not so relevant anymore because of, let's call it, saturation. So this route was followed, and it's an old route, and it knows saturation. But it still happens in R. R is recently, is until 4,250 years ago. It still happened. The same for the Pacific route still happens, probably even further than the Andaman Islands, which is here. This points to the Andaman Islands to deliver in Myanmar, Bangladesh, and so on. So they come in from here. They could descend, it's not excluded, but they also could come in from here and they could climb higher. So you have two sources. Here is a North America source in the case of haplogroup R, Romeo, which is recent until 4,250 years ago and not earlier than 90,000 years ago. And what we are talking now is 50,000 years ago, or probably more. But still, in the recent migrations of hybrids, the route was still used. It's difficult to know how much that rose and how much that descended. Until now, in the comments of this article, the Amazon native is still confirmed as ancestor. Or in other words, there is nothing against the Amazon native being the origin, or the Amazon forest, or the enriched agroforest being the origin of all Native Americans and of all humans, inclusive these groups we are talking about, also in Australia. This article is an argument against, out of Africa at least, the Beringia port to Beringia or Bering Strait, and also against the permafrost, against the ice or the dead zone theory of the out of Africa. Because the Africans are supposed to migrate to Beringia, the Bering Strait, and to cross it, and to come in on the other side. And this article, all this in the south and in Australia, is against out of Africa, also in timing. Out of Africa is 50,000 and later it was 80,000 years ago. And we can find these humans, and it's probably the humans we are talking about in this article, we can find them 50,000 years ago, and the consensus claims they could not navigate. So it's one of the paradigms. It doesn't help the out of Africa theory. It creates paradigms, more than one, against out of Africa. And this article again mentions or argues for a first wave to the Amazon forest. Well, when the Amazon forest is the origin, the first wave is to the Amazon forest, because the first wave is the Amazon forest. So anyone that does not accept the Amazon forest as origin faces many, probably over 100, maybe hundreds of paradigms. And when you accept Amazon forest as the origin, there are none or very few paradigms left. And after all, I found out as well, very late, that the Amazon forest is an enriched agroforest. And it's enriched by the Amazon natives or origin. So our origin started very early to enrich agroforest, to create the Amazon forest that made our origin thrive, and that provided mass material for mass harvesting to produce the hybrids that we are talking about all the time, and that in fact turn over the world, conquer the world. It's not only the Yamnaya or horseman turnover event, it is also the Younger Dryas population turnover event. And the Yamnaya or the horseman population turnover event is only part of it. So not just as an exercise, alternative, the origin is in Australia and not in the Amazon forest or wherever. So an exercise, the origin is amongst the indigenous Australians, New Guineans and Andaman Islanders. Are there proofs against this alternative? First of all, they have the currents against them. The currents will not take them to the Americas. And all currents of the Americans, at least South and Central America, take them to these locations like Australia, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and in the ice ages to Sahul and Sundaland, which is pretty much Southeast Asia. It was bigger then, and Australia, that was bigger then.